Control. Hyun displayed population statistics. War justifies strict governance, resource rationing, surveillance. The Council species have maintained power for millennia by keeping the Confederation in a constant state of emergency. Back in the Council chamber, Taiho made a decision that would change his life forever. He activated his personal communication device, broadcasting directly to every ship and station in Confederation space. "This testimony is being recorded," he announced. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded Neru. Taiho ignored him. "I am strategist Taiho of the Drachnid forces. For 6 cycles I have observed the human military units integrated into our ranks. I believed, as we all did, that they were recruited to help defeat the Void Collective, a terrible enemy that threatened galactic peace." The council members began shouting for guards, but Taiho continued. "I have discovered this is a lie. The Void Collective began as a peaceful movement. The Confederation attacked first, creating the very enemy it claims to protect us from. Across Confederation space, beings of 1,000 species watched as Taiho transmitted the classified documents, the true history of the conflict, the Council's plans to use humans as disposable troops, the deliberate prolonging of the war. We believed humans were the perfect warrior race," Taiho said, his voice steady despite the armed guards now entering the chamber. "We were wrong. They are something far more dangerous to the Council. They are questioners. They see patterns we have been trained to ignore. They challenge orders we have been conditioned to follow." On the human command ship, Minho watched Taiho's broadcast with growing amazement. "He's sacrificing everything," Hyun whispered. "The Council has maintained control by keeping us divided and afraid," Taiho continued as guards surrounded him. "Afraid of the void, afraid of each other, afraid to question." One of the guards raised his weapon but hesitated, clearly affected by Taiho's words. "The humans have shown me another path. They fight not because they love battle, but because they value what they protect. They question not from defiance, but from a desire to find better solutions." Councillor Neru's voice thundered through the chamber. "Silence him! The true enemy is not the Void Collective," Taiho declared. "It is a system that views some lives as expendable, that maintains power through endless conflict, that punishes those who seek peaceful alternatives." The transmission cut off abruptly as Taiho was stunned by a guard's weapon. He collapsed to the floor, his final thought before losing consciousness. The truth was out now. What happened next would depend on how many were ready to hear it. Across the galaxy, ships' communication systems overflowed with messages as beings of countless species began to question everything they had been taught about the war, about the Void Collective, about the Confederation itself. On the bridge of the human command ship, Colonel Jiwoo turned to her officers. "Prepare a secure channel to the Void Collective Command. It's time we spoke directly to our supposed enemy." Taiho stood at the observation window of the neutral station where the Peace Summit was taking place. The massive space habitat hung in orbit around an uninhabited world, chosen specifically because it belonged to neither the Confederation nor the Void Collective. His reflection showed the changes of the past months. The healing scar across his face, the ceremonial markings of exile burned into his scales, the simple civilian clothes instead of his commander's uniform. "Nervous?" asked Lieutenant Hyun as she joined him at the window. Her human eyes couldn't see as many stars as his, but she gazed outward with the same thoughtful expression. "Drachnid do not feel nervousness," Taiho replied automatically, then added, "But yes, extremely so." Hyun smiled. "3 months ago, half the galaxy wanted you dead for treason. Now you're helping organize the first true peace talks in 400 years. I'd say that's progress." After Taiho's broadcast exposed the Confederation Council's lies, the response had been chaotic. Some worlds erupted in protest. Others declared loyalty to the Council. Military units fractured, with some supporting reform and others following traditional command. The Council had tried to regain control by blaming everything on human influence, but too many questions had been raised. Meanwhile, Colonel Jiwoo and Captain Minho had done the unthinkable. They'd opened direct communication with the Void Collective leadership. The door to the observation deck slid open, and Minho entered. "It's time, the representatives have arrived." Taiho followed the humans to the grand meeting chamber. 3 distinct groups were taking their places around the circular table. On one side sat the Confederation loyalists, their postures rigid with disapproval. Opposite them were the Void Collective representatives, cautious but hopeful. Between them sat the Reform Coalition, defectors from both sides who believed in a new path forward. And quietly observing from a raised platform were delegates from Earth, witnessing the culmination of humanity's unexpected role in galactic politics. Colonel Jiwoo stepped to the center of the room. All eyes turned to her. "We come together today not as enemies but as beings who share this galaxy," she began. "For too long, we have been divided by lies and fear." A Confederation admiral interrupted. "The humans have no authority to speak here. They are junior allies at best, traitors at worst." Minho stepped forward. "We were recruited because the Confederation believed humans were the perfect warriors. You expected us to fight without question and die without complaint. And you have proven incapable of both," the admiral sneered. "Yes," Minho agreed calmly, "because war is not our natural state. We fight when necessary, but we prefer to build rather than destroy." Taiho moved to stand beside the humans. The Confederation sought warriors who would obey without question. Instead, they found a species that asks the questions we should have been asking for centuries. A representative from the Void Collective spoke, her voice translated through the chamber's systems. "The original conflict began when the Council demanded our complete submission. We only sought the freedom to choose our own path." "The Council claimed you were dangerous radicals," Taiho said. "Many of us never knew the true cause of the war." "And now that truth is known," Jiwoo said, "so we face a choice. Continue centuries of conflict or find a new way forward." What followed was not easy. Centuries of hatred could not be erased in a single meeting. Accusations flew, old wounds were reopened. Several times representatives stormed out, only to return hours later. But something remarkable happened as the days passed. The humans did not dominate the talks as many expected. Instead, they listened. They found common ground between bitter enemies. They suggested compromises that allowed both sides to maintain dignity. On the 4th day, when tensions reached their peak, Hyun surprised everyone by inviting representatives from both sides to share meals together. "On Earth, we often find that breaking bread together helps break down barriers," she explained. Taiho watched in amazement as formal enemies cautiously began to talk as people rather than adversaries. He joined a table where a void scientist was describing their sustainable energy systems to fascinated Confederation engineers. By the 10th day, the outlines of a new relationship were emerging. Not a single government, but a cooperative alliance that respected the autonomy of its members while providing mutual defense and trade benefits. "This is not what the Council sent us to accomplish," Taiho said to Minho as they reviewed the draft agreement. "No," Minho agreed. "They wanted warriors who would help them win a war. Instead, they got diplomats who helped end one." On the final day, as representatives prepared to sign the preliminary accords, Taiho found himself alone with Colonel Jiwoo. "I still don't fully understand humans," he admitted. "You are capable of terrible violence, yet you choose peace whenever possible. You can fight brilliantly, yet prefer not to fight at all." Jiwoo smiled. "That's what makes us human. We contain contradictions. We're still evolving, still learning. We don't have all the answers." "The Confederation believed humans were the perfect warrior race," Taiho said thoughtfully. "We were wrong in the most unexpected way." "How so?" "The perfect warrior wins battles," Taiho explained, "but you showed us something greater, how to end the war itself." As the signing ceremony began, Taiho watched the human delegates. The Confederation had sought them out for their capacity for violence, never suspecting their greater gift, the ability to imagine peace in the midst of war, to find common ground between enemies, to transform conflict into cooperation. "The true measure of strength," Taiho wrote in his final report, "is not how efficiently one destroys enemies, but how effectively one transforms them into friends." He expected anger. Instead, Minho's face showed only a deep disappointment that somehow felt worse. "We didn't come here to die for someone else's war," Minho said quietly. "We came because we believed in defending the galaxy against a genuine threat." The Void Collective is a genuine threat, Teho insisted. Is it? Because everything we've learned suggests they're not the monsters we were told about. Minho leaned forward. The prisoners we've taken, the communications we've intercepted, they speak of the Confederation as the aggressor. Teho rose from his chair, agitated. That is enemy propaganda. Maybe. Or maybe we haven't been told the whole truth. Minho stood as well. The human units will not serve as sacrifice pieces in tomorrow's battle. We've developed our own approach to the mission objectives. That is treason, Teho said automatically, though the words felt hollow. No, it's survival. Minho moved toward the door but paused. You've watched us for months, Teho. You've seen how we fight, how we think. Did you ever ask yourself why the Confederation really wanted humans? Was it because we're perfect warriors? Or because we're perfectly expendable? After Minho left, Teho sat alone for a long time. The question echoed in his mind, along with memories of every battle he'd observed. The humans took risks, yes, but calculated ones. They valued lives, not just their own, but all lives. They sought victory with minimal casualties. Was this weakness, as the Confederation believed, or a different kind of strength? The next morning, Teho stood on the command deck of the flagship as the massive offensive began. The plan called for human forces to launch a frontal assault against the Void Collective's heavily fortified position in the Calum Rift, a narrow passage between two star clusters where energy storms made sensors unreliable. Terran Vanguard, proceed to attack coordinates, ordered Admiral Garo. All units maintain formation. There was a pause before Colonel Jiwoo's voice replied, Negative, Command. We've detected unusual energy readings at the designated coordinates. This is a trap. Garo's scales darkened with rage. You will follow orders immediately or face Terran units are repositioning to coordinates 428733, Jiwoo interrupted calmly. We've identified a sensor blind spot in the Void defenses. Strike teams are moving into position now. On the tactical display, Teho watched as the human ships broke from the main fleet, taking a completely different approach to the Void Collective stronghold. Stop them, Garo demanded. Lock weapons on those ships. Sir, Teho said quietly, perhaps we should observe their strategy before. You've grown soft, Commander, Garo snapped. Too much time with these primitives has clouded your judgment. What happened next stunned everyone on the command deck. The human forces, instead of charging to their deaths, executed a complex maneuver that took them through a narrow gap in the Void defenses. They emerged behind the enemy line and launched targeted strikes against key command and control centers. The Void forces, caught by surprise, scrambled to respond. Within minutes, their carefully planned ambush collapsed into chaos. All Confederation units advanced through the gap opened by Terran forces, Jiwoo's voice announced. Targeting data transmitted to your systems now. The battle that should have cost thousands of lives ended with minimal casualties and a decisive victory. But as celebrations began across the fleet, Teho saw Admiral Garo's expression. This wasn't just insubordination. It was a demonstration that the Confederation's military doctrine, centuries in development, had been outthought by their supposed inferiors. Later, as Teho returned to his quarters, he found a data chip on his desk. It contained a single file, labeled Void Collective Origin Records, Classified Archives. He hesitated only briefly before inserting it into his console. What he saw there would change everything. Teho stood alone in the center of the Confederation Council chamber. 7 tall environmental pods surrounded him, each containing a member of the ruling species. Their forms were barely visible through the swirling mists that filled their life support chambers. Strategist Teho, boomed the voice of Supreme Counselor Neru. Explain why you failed to prevent the humans' disobedience during the Calum Rift battle. Teho kept his posture straight, though his inner eyelids flickered with anxiety. The humans identified a flaw in our battle plan. Their alternative strategy achieved all objectives with minimal losses. That is not the issue, hissed Counselor Vex. They defied direct orders. The plan required them to engage the enemy head-on, where they would have suffered devastating casualties, Teho said, then immediately regretted his words. A low murmur passed through the council chambers. Nehru leaned forward, his shadowy form becoming clearer through the mist. You question the wisdom of High Command? Taiho hesitated. The data chip he had viewed the night before filled his thoughts. It contained records from the early days of the conflict with the Void Collective, records deliberately erased from official history. I question the purpose of sacrificing valuable allies, Taiho said carefully. Their purpose is to die so that Confederation citizens do not have to, Nehru stated coldly. That is why we sought a warrior race, expendable combatants to extend our forces. The truth of it, spoken so plainly, shocked Taiho despite his suspicions. The humans were never meant to be allies, only weapons. You've grown attached to these creatures, Vex observed. A serious lapse in judgment. Meanwhile, aboard the human command ship, Captain Minho and Lieutenant Hyun worked quickly in a sealed communications room. The information they had discovered in the Void Outpost had led them to dig deeper into Confederation databases. Look at this, Hyun said, pointing to ancient text scrolling across her screen. The original Void Collective was formed by 17 species who objected to mandatory resource collection. Minho leaned closer. They wanted to leave the Confederation peacefully? Yes, they called for free movement of peoples and ideas. Hyun's fingers moved rapidly across the interface. The Confederation responded by blockading their worlds and starving them into submission. That doesn't match anything we were told, Minho said grimly. There's more. Hyun brought up another document. Internal Confederation reports show the war has been deliberately prolonged. Peace initiatives were sabotaged from within. Why would they want endless war? By ignoring established protocols, Taiho countered. The Drachnid military has refined its tactics over 12 centuries of warfare. We expect our allies to follow them. With respect, sir, human soldiers adapt to circumstances. When we saw a better approach, we took it. Taiho leaned forward. The Confederation did not bring humans here to think. We brought you here to fight. Something flickered across Minho's face. Not fear or anger, but perhaps disappointment. Humans do both. Sir, it's what makes us effective. Before Taiho could respond, alarms blared throughout the base. A voice announced, all units to battle stations. Void Collective ships detected in Sector 7. Within minutes, Taiho found himself in the command center, watching as Confederation forces scrambled to intercept the surprise attack. 3 Void High vessels had appeared near a research outpost, bypassing early warning systems. Terran Vanguard is closest to the incursion point, reported a tactical officer. Admiral Garo, now overseeing this sector, nodded. Deploy them immediately. Standard elimination protocol. Taiho watched on the monitors as the human squad's transport launched toward the battle zone. He opened a communication channel. Captain Minho, you will engage and destroy all Void vessels. No survivors, confirm orders. There was a brief pause before Minho's voice replied. Orders received, moving to engage. The battle unfolded on the tactical display. The human squad approached the Void ships using standard Confederation attack patterns, but then suddenly changed formation. Taiho hissed in frustration. What are they doing? Demanded Admiral Garo. Instead of diving straight into combat, the humans were circling the smallest Void vessel, targeting its engines with precision strikes. Within minutes, the ship was disabled but intact. Target neutralized, reported Minho, moving to secure. Neutralized? Garo snarled. The orders were to destroy. The remaining Void ships began retreating. The humans let them go, focusing instead on boarding the disabled vessel. Captain Minho, explain yourself, Taiho demanded over the comm. Sir, we identified this as a science vessel, not a warship. The markings indicate it's carrying research. Personnel. We're securing valuable intelligence and prisoners. The command center fell silent. Taking prisoners was rare in Confederation tactics. The war with the Void Collective had long ago moved beyond such considerations. 2 hours later, Taiho stood in the detention area as Minho presented their findings. The scientists had charts showing Void fleet movements here, here, and here, Minho explained, pointing to a holographic map. They also carried research data on a new propulsion system. Admiral Garo studied the information with growing interest. This could be extremely valuable. And the prisoners are willing to provide authentication codes in exchange for asylum, added Lieutenant Hyun, a quiet human female who served as the squad's communications specialist. Asylum? Taiho asked, confused. They are enemy combatants, Hyun shook her head. They're civilians pressed into military service. They don't believe in the Void Collective's cause. Taiho struggled to process this. The Confederation had always portrayed the Void Collective as a unified enemy, fanatically devoted to their cause. The idea of dissidents within their ranks was unsettling. Later, in his private quarters, Taiho reviewed footage of the human squad during the operation. They had moved with precision and courage, yes, but also with something else, restraint. When facing armed resistance, they disabled, rather than killed when possible. They communicated with the enemy instead of simply destroying them. These were not the actions of perfect warriors, as the Drachnid understood the concept. Perfect warriors did not show mercy. They did not question orders. They did not see enemies as potential sources of information, rather than targets to eliminate. Yet the humans had achieved a greater victory than a simple battle triumph. The intelligence they gathered would save countless Confederation lives. Taiho made a new entry in his personal log. Human combat doctrine contains contradictions I still cannot reconcile. They fight with less brutality than expected, yet achieve superior results. They disobey tactical protocols, yet fulfill strategic objectives more effectively. I am beginning to wonder if the Confederation's understanding of warfare is as complete as we believed. He closed the log and stared out at the stars. The perfect warrior race was proving to be something else entirely, something he had no name. For yet, Taiho's claws clicked nervously against the metal table as he read the classified transmission for the third time. The message from Confederation High Command was clear. Human units to be positioned at primary assault points in the upcoming Kylum sector offensive. Expected casualty rate, 70–85%. Acceptable losses given human reproduction rates and continuing recruitment from Earth. He closed the file and looked around his sparse quarters. 6 cycles serving alongside humans had changed him. What had begun as a simple military assessment had become something more complicated. The humans were not behaving as perfect warriors should. They questioned. They adapted. They showed mercy when the Confederation demanded ruthlessness. And now the Confederation planned to spend their lives like cheap currency. A chime at his door interrupted his thoughts. "Enter," Taiho called. "Captain." Minho stepped inside, his face showing unusual tension. "Commander, we need to talk." Taiho gestured to the empty chair across from him. "I assume this concerns tomorrow's briefing." "It concerns the fact that human units are being positioned as cannon fodder," Minho said bluntly. "We've analyzed the battle plans. Every human squad is assigned to the highest risk zones, while Drachnid and Osiran forces take support positions." Taiho's inner eyelids flickered, a sign of discomfort among his species. "You accessed classified battle plans. Lieutenant Hyun has certain skills," Minho replied without apology. "Is it true? Are we considered expendable?" For a moment, Taiho considered lying. It would be the proper Confederation response. Instead, he pushed the datapad across the table. "Yes," he said simply. "The Council values Confederation lives above Alliance species. Humans reproduce quickly and join our forces willingly. The mathematics are efficient." The massive Confederation warship hung silently above Earth, its sleek hull reflecting the blue glow of the planet below. Inside the observation deck, Commander Taiho stood with his clawed hands clasped behind his back. His reptilian eyes narrowed as he studied the view screen showing the third planet of this unremarkable solar system. "So this is the homeworld of our potential warriors," said Admiral Garo, moving to stand beside him. The Admiral's scales shimmered with an iridescent pattern that revealed his excitement. "Yes," Taiho replied. "The species calls themselves humans. They appear physically unimpressive, but their combat history suggests otherwise." Taiho touched the display panel, bringing up images captured by stealth probes. The screens filled with scenes of human activity. Soldiers training in desert conditions, martial artists sparring in disciplined matches, historical footage of battles fought with everything from primitive blades to nuclear weapons. 3,000 years of documented warfare, Taiho noted. They fight over territory, resources, ideology, even abstract concepts like honor or faith. They create weapons for sport. They simulate battle for entertainment. Admiral Garo flicked his tongue in appreciation. And their physical capabilities? Less strength than a drachnid juvenile, but remarkable endurance. They can suffer injuries. That would incapacitate most species and continue fighting. Their pain tolerance is exceptional, Taiho explained. Most interesting is their adaptation to diverse environments. They can fight in extreme cold, scorching heat, high altitudes, even underwater with minimal equipment. The Council will be pleased, Garo said. After centuries of stalemate against the Void Collective, we need fresh tactics, fresh blood. Taiho nodded, but something troubled him. There are contradictions in their behavior I cannot explain. They create weapons of mass destruction, then establish rules to prevent their use. They wage war, then expend enormous resources caring for injured enemies. Garo dismissed this with a wave of his scaled hand. Primitive inconsistencies. Once properly directed, these tendencies will be corrected. The ship's communication system chimed softly. The human representatives have arrived at the designated meeting point, announced the ship's artificial intelligence. Prepare my shuttle, ordered Garo. Commander Taiho, you will accompany me. Your assessment of their reactions will be valuable. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, landing in an open field where human military vehicles had formed a perimeter. Taiho felt the planet's heavier gravity pulling at his body as he stepped onto the soil of Earth for the first time. A small group of humans approached. They wore formal military attire, adorned with symbols of rank and achievement. Taiho's translator. Implant processed their spoken language. Welcome to Earth, said the leader, a female human with short black hair and alert eyes. I am Colonel Jiwoo of the United Earth Defense Force. We are honored by your presence. Taiho studied her closely. Her posture revealed discipline and confidence. Her eyes constantly assessed the Confederation delegation. A warrior's awareness. The honor is ours, replied Admiral Garo through his translator. I am Admiral Garo of the Galactic Confederation. We have traveled far to meet your species. Jiwoo nodded. Our scientists detected your ships entering our solar system 3 months ago. We've been preparing for this moment. Taiho noted the implication. Their detection systems were more advanced than expected. They had known they were being observed, but had made no hostile moves. Interesting. Admiral Garo proceeded with the prepared diplomatic speech about friendship and cooperation between species, but Taiho watched the other humans in the delegation. A tall male with broad shoulders caught his attention. This human watched the Drachnid guards with particular intensity, his eyes noting their weapons and stance. A tactician, evaluating threats. We understand you face a significant threat, Jiwoo said when Garo finished. You mentioned this Void Collective in your transmission. A grave threat to galactic stability, Garo confirmed. They oppose the natural order of civilization. They must be stopped. And you believe humans can help in this conflict? Jiwoo asked. We have observed your species. You are natural warriors with an instinct for combat few races possess, Garo said. The Confederation offers an exchange. We provide advanced technology and you provide soldiers for our cause. Taiho watched carefully as the humans exchanged glances. The tall male, Captain Minho, according to his translator's identification, stepped forward. We would need to understand more about this conflict before committing our people, Minho said. Of course, Garo agreed smoothly. We have prepared detailed briefings. Later, as the humans reviewed the information in their temporary quarters, aboard the Confederation ship, Taiho observed them through monitoring systems. They're offering technology centuries beyond our current capabilities, one human scientist marveled. In exchange for cannon fodder, Minho countered, that's what they want, soldiers who will die for their war. Every advanced civilization we've imagined would be peaceful, another human said. Yet they come to us because we're good at fighting. Is that all the galaxy sees when they look at humanity? Jiwoo's voice was firm. It's what they see, it doesn't have to be all we are. Taiho recorded these exchanges with growing fascination. The humans recognized they were being valued for their combat abilities, yet they showed reluctance. This contradicted his understanding of warrior species. When the formal alliance was signed 3 Earth weeks later, Taiho filed his official assessment. Humans show exceptional potential as combat assets. Recommend immediate integration into Confederation forces. Privately, he added a note to his personal log. These humans are not what they first appear. They fight not because they love battle, but for reasons I do not yet understand. Further study is essential. As the first transport ships filled with human volunteers departed Earth, Taiho watched from the observation deck. The perfect warrior race was coming to join the Confederation's Great War, yet somehow he suspected the Confederation had no idea what they had really found. The user has asked you to write a creative story with specific parameters. Please make sure your response follows the requirements. Part 2 of the story in approximately 800 words, in third-person style, using simple English without headings and making it interesting. The user wants Part 2, the human integration of the story with simple Korean names as requested previously. Follow the outline you created, but make it an engaging narrative. 3 months had passed since the first human combat units joined the Confederation forces. Taiho stood in the observation room above the training arena, watching the humans of Terran Vanguard Squad complete their daily exercises. His scaled fingers tapped against the railing as he made notes on his datapad. They learn quickly, remarked his assistant, a junior drachnid named Liss. Too quickly, Taiho replied. They have mastered weapon systems that took our engineers decades to perfect. Below them, Captain Minho led his team through a complex battle simulation. The humans moved with surprising grace in the powered combat suits, adapting to the technology, as if born to it. When the exercise ended, the scoreboard flashed their results. A new record time. Taiho narrowed his eyes. The humans were efficient, yes, but they frequently deviated from standard Confederation tactics. This troubled him. Later that day, Taiho summoned Minho to his office. The human captain arrived promptly, standing at attention before Taiho's desk. You wanted to see me, Commander. Your performance numbers are impressive, Taiho began, but your methods are unorthodox. Minho remained expressionless. We achieved the mission objectives.